The wounds on the dog weren't normal. Bite marks, deep cuts, systematic damage. Dr. Sarah Coleman had seen this before, but on battlefields, on fighting dogs. Now she was seeing the same injuries in peaceful Iowa, and she knew this wasn't innocent animal injury. This was organized cruelty. Welcome to Echo Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Millbrook, Iowa, population 3,800, surrounded by cornfields and farmland. Dr. Sarah Coleman had been the town's only veterinarian for 15 years. Her clinic sat on Main Street, next to the hardware store, and across from the diner where everyone knew everyone's business. At 58, Dr. Coleman was respected by farmers and pet owners alike. She was quiet, professional, and had a reputation for never giving up on an animal. Her clinic was modest but well-equipped, and she worked alone except for her part-time assistant, Jenny. What the townspeople didn't know was that before veterinary school, Sarah had served 8 years in the Army as a canine handler and veterinary specialist. She'd been deployed to Afghanistan twice, treating military working dogs under combat conditions. Those experiences had taught her to recognize things most vets never saw. This Saturday morning started like any other. Sarah arrived at 7 a.m. to check on the animals staying overnight. But when she examined the German Shepherd that had been brought in late Friday, something felt wrong. The dog, a 2-year-old male named Rex, had been brought in by a nervous man who paid cash and left quickly. The story was simple. Got loose, got in a fight with another dog. But Sarah's trained eye saw something different. The bite patterns were too systematic. Multiple puncture wounds on the neck and legs, but positioned strategically, not the random damage of a dogfight. The scarring showed this wasn't the first time, and Rex's behavior was telling. He was aggressive but terrified, exhibiting signs of trauma beyond physical injury. Sarah had seen these exact patterns in Afghanistan, military dogs that had been captured and used in underground fighting rings. The systematic nature of the wounds, the psychological trauma, it all pointed to organized dog fighting. She called Jenny over. "Look at these bite marks. What do you think?" Jenny, who had worked with Sarah for 5 years, studied the wounds. "That's weird positioning for a dog fight. Almost like it was controlled," Sarah finished, "like someone was training other dogs to attack specific areas." Over the next week, 3 more dogs came in with similar injuries. Different owners, all paying cash, all with vague stories about accidents or got loose. Sarah started taking detailed photos and keeping careful records. The pattern was clear to her military-trained eye. Someone was running a dog fighting operation, and these were either fighting dogs being patched up or bait dogs being used to train fighters. Sarah remembered her time in Afghanistan, where local dogfighting was often connected to larger criminal operations. The psychology was the same: organized violence, cash flow, intimidation tactics. She decided to investigate quietly. Sarah started asking subtle questions around town, paying attention to who had new dogs, who suddenly had extra cash, who seemed nervous around certain topics. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Old Pete, who ran the feed store, mentioned something while Sarah was buying supplies. "Doc, you've seen a lot of banged-up dogs lately. Makes me think of when I was young, and they had those terrible fights out at the Morrison place." "The Morrison place?" "Old farm, been abandoned for years. But I seen lights out there at night recently, and heard dogs barking. Lots of dogs." Sarah knew the Morrison farm, 20 miles outside town, isolated, perfect for illegal activities. She also knew that kind of setup from her military intelligence training. Remote location, multiple escape routes, local corruption often involved. That night, Sarah drove past the Morrison farm. From the road, it looked abandoned, but she could see tire tracks, and there was definitely activity. Her canine training had taught her to observe and assess threats. This felt dangerous. Sarah spent the next week documenting everything. She photographed the injured dogs, mapped the pattern of owners, and noted the timing of injuries, always after weekends, suggesting fights happened on Friday or Saturday nights. Her military training kicked in. She treated this like an intelligence operation. Gather evidence, identify key players, determine the scope of the operation. The more she investigated, the more she realized this wasn't just casual dogfighting. The systematic nature, the number of animals involved, the level of organization. This was a major operation, probably involving significant money and multiple participants. Sarah also recognized something else from her military experience. The people running this operation would be dangerous. In Afghanistan, animal cruelty and organized violence went hand in hand with other criminal activities. 2 weeks later, a man brought in a severely injured pit bull. The dog was barely alive, with wounds that would require extensive surgery. The man was agitated, demanded the dog be fixed quick, and offered to pay triple the normal fee. Sarah looked at the dog and saw herself back in Kandahar, treating a military working dog that had been tortured by insurgents. The rage she felt then came flooding back. "What happened to this dog?" she asked directly. "I told you, he got in a fight." "No," Sarah said, her voice calm but firm. "This dog was used as bait. These are systematic torture wounds. I know because I've seen them before." The man's demeanor changed. "You don't know what you're talking about, lady. Just fix the dog." "I'm going to fix him," Sarah said, "but I'm also going to report this. I know what dogfighting looks like, and I know what torture looks like. This stops now." The man stepped closer, trying to intimidate her. "Doc, you don't want to get involved in things that ain't your business? Some things in this town are better left alone." Sarah didn't back down. Her military training had prepared her for intimidation tactics. "Actually, animal welfare is exactly my business. And I've dealt with much scarier people than you. You have no idea who you're messing with. Former Army K-9 specialist, 2 tours in Afghanistan. I've been threatened by Taliban fighters. You're going to have to do better than that." The man realized he'd underestimated the quiet veterinarian. He left without the dog, but not before making it clear that Sarah was now in danger. That night, Sarah made some calls. In the military, you learn that the brotherhood extends beyond service. She reached out to her old unit commander, now a federal agent, and several former military police contacts. Within 24 hours, she had federal agencies interested in the case. Dogfighting operations often connected to other crimes, drug trafficking, weapons, money laundering. Her detailed documentation and military credibility made the case compelling. Sarah also activated local veteran networks. She discovered that several other vets in the area had noticed similar patterns but hadn't connected the dots. Her military training and intelligence gathering had given her skills most civilian veterinarians didn't have. 3 weeks later, coordinated raids hit multiple locations across 3 counties. The Morrison farm was the headquarters, but the operation was much larger than anyone had suspected. Over 60 dogs were rescued, and a network involving hundreds of thousands of dollars was dismantled. Sarah's documentation proved crucial. Her photographs, detailed injury reports, and timeline analysis provided the evidence needed for prosecution. Her military experience in intelligence gathering had made the difference between a failed investigation and a successful operation. The rescued dogs required extensive medical care. Sarah worked around the clock, using both her veterinary skills and her knowledge of trauma recovery from her military service. She understood how to rehabilitate animals that had experienced systematic abuse. The town was shocked by the scope of the operation. People Sarah had known for years were involved. The quiet veterinarian who had seemed unremarkable was suddenly revealed as the person who had brought down a major criminal enterprise. Local media wanted interviews, but Sarah declined. "I just did what any veterinarian should do. Animals can't speak for themselves, so we have to speak for them." Sheriff Morrison, no relation to the farm, admitted they had suspected something but lacked the expertise to investigate properly. Doc Coleman saw what we couldn't see. Her military background made all the difference. In the months following the raids, Sarah continued treating the rescued dogs. Many were too damaged to fully recover, but her military experience with traumatized animals gave her unique insights into rehabilitation. She also discovered something unexpected. Other veterinarians across the state began reaching out, reporting similar suspicious injuries. Sarah had uncovered not just a local operation, but part of a statewide network. Federal agents asked her to consult on similar cases. Sarah agreed to help, understanding that her unique combination of veterinary knowledge and military intelligence training was rare and valuable. One evening, treating a formerly aggressive pit bull that was finally learning to trust humans again, Sarah reflected on her journey. From military canine handler to rural veterinarian to criminal investigator, each phase had prepared her for the next. "You know, Rex," she said to the German shepherd whose injuries had started everything, "I thought I left the war behind when I came to Iowa. Turns out the war came to Iowa." Rex, now fully healed and living at the clinic as Sarah's personal dog, wagged his tail. He'd become the clinic mascot, proof that even the most damaged animals could recover with proper care and understanding. Sarah realized her military service hadn't ended when she left the army. It had evolved. Instead of protecting military assets, she was now protecting vulnerable animals and the communities they lived in. She began working with other rural veterinarians, teaching them to recognize signs of organized animal abuse. Her military training in pattern recognition, threat assessment, and intelligence gathering proved invaluable in civilian law enforcement. The quiet veterinarian in small-town Iowa had become something she never expected, a specialist in animal-related criminal investigations. A year later, Sarah still ran her clinic on Main Street, but now she also consulted for federal agencies, trained other veterinarians, and worked with animal welfare organizations across the Midwest. She had turned her military experience into a new kind of service, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The farmers and pet owners of Millbrook still brought their animals to Dr. Coleman, but now they understood they were dealing with someone extraordinary, not just a veterinarian, but a protector who had found a new way to serve. And so, in a small Iowa town, it was once again proven how deceiving appearances can be. A quiet rural veterinarian was actually a trained military specialist who had never stopped fighting for justice. She had simply found a different battlefield. Real protectors are like this. They hang up their uniforms but never abandon their mission. They find new ways to serve, new battles to fight, new lives to save. If this story meant something to you, share your thoughts in the comments. If you believe stories like this should continue to be told, support Echo Stories by subscribing. See you in the next video. And remember, that quiet professional in your small town might be carrying skills and experiences you never imagined. Everyone has a story, and that story deserves respect.